Atomic Heart is a game that was shown off a few years back and it was an instantly fascinating game to me. It had the look of a Fallout Bioshock mix, but with more of a surreal, futuristic and trippy vibe to it. Despite my interest, I don't think I expected anything special or amazing. I thought it'd be fine at best, and maybe it would just ride on its weird vibes and try to get by with just that. And after so many delays, a lot of my interest went with it. So it was getting this day one a risk that paid off, or was it an atomic waste of time that belongs in the scrap heap? Let's find out. Before I begin, I just want to say once, I am not accustomed to the names, language or pronunciation of any of this, so I apologise in advance for the butchering of names I forgot how to pronounce. You start off as Major Nechayev, or Agent P3, in an alternate history Soviet Union in 1955 on Chelome, a utopian, futuristic, perfect city in the clouds. Complete with drone-like robots to bring you snacks, android who look like human, for better or for worse, linking things to your mind, injections to learn languages and skills, all through neuroconnectors into brains, and all that futuristic stuff.
Just inject a special neuropolymer encoded with the education you want, a university-level natural sciences curriculum, for example, and you'll instantly become an educated...
And the line between human and machine getting ever smaller. All of these advancements are overseen or created by Dr. Sechenov, who is mere days away from launching the Collective 2.0, a neurolink that will allow citizens to control robots with just their mind, and collectively connect human minds with their robots and each other. You are equipped with Charles, a talking robo-glove who will provide info, company and some banter, and can also use tentacle-like tubes to inject new information and abilities.
Don't you think that may have been a bit too much?
Nope.
For some reason, your response didn't surprise me at all.
Guess I don't have any respect for brown-nosers.
Tell me, is there anyone you do have respect for?
The main guy can be a bit of an annoying asshole at first, just kind of snapping for no reason and being a complete dick just for nothing. It's really weird.
Duty on Comrade Sechenov's direct order.
Welcome, Comrade Major. Today is a joyful occasion, the birthday of Collective.
Yeah, many happy returns. Cut to the chase, would you? I've got places to be.
I started off really hoping this wouldn't be a game-long thing, but he did grow on me, and even his more unlikable qualities would either wear a bit, or just make me laugh because just sort of how out of nowhere they could be. How unneeded it could be. But as you can probably expect, things don't stay perfect forever. One day on a visit to the land below, you are attacked by the machines that have mysteriously turned hostile. Viktor Petrov, one of the co-designers of the Neuralink, is a traitor who has hacked into the central hub and caused all the civilian robots to attack civilians. You are tasked to bring him back alive and put an end to all this bloodshed, and I won't go into story spoilers or anything, but as you can probably expect, things don't go as according to plan. There's suspicion, betrayals, power struggles, ulterior motives, twists and turns, mysterious happenings, all that good stuff. I don't like to go into story details further than that, and honestly there isn't a ton. Most of it is through stuff you'll hear in audio calls. I won't act like it's a standout stellar or memorable story, but it was pretty good and kept me invested throughout and kept me pushing on to be curious with the little information they would pass along, and some characters that were pretty great when they got the chance to shine. The ending comes with multiple choices and a pretty spectacular and fun final boss. Personally, I don't think either ending was exactly satisfying, but I'm hoping that what I think was a sequel tease will bear some good fruit. I won't say anything more, but this game had a story moment that is so specific that I can't believe it's happened twice in games this year already. I'll put it at the end after a big spoiler warning and I've wrapped up, so feel free to leave after I give that warning if you want. As I mentioned, the characters can be pretty great, but the time with most of them is pretty light. I doubt I'll really think about them a ton after a little while, and most don't get much time. But I think with what they had, they did pretty good. The main character is pretty okay. He's weirdly standoffish and it can be pretty hard to deal with, but it's hard to explain. The more it goes on, a mix of his delivery and how unnecessarily angry he is, It just makes me laugh too hard to dislike him.
And I'll do the thinking for both of us.
Shut the hell up, Glove. I'm trying to listen.
Like, dude, nothing has gone wrong yet. Why are you so mad? Like, he can't even ask himself if there's a radio in the car without sounding pissed off.
Isn't there supposed to be a radio in here?
It's a weird contradiction. It's kind of endearing how out of place his anger and rudeness can be. But beneath it all, he is a decent guy and very loyal to Sechenov, who is like a father figure to him. And you can tell he does at least care enough not to want to make anyone feel worse than they already do. Charles, your glove AI companion, is mostly what you'd expect from an assistant robo-helper, but he has more going on than you initially think, and he seems to have a bit more of a mind of his own. And sometimes even breaks from his usual stiff analysing lines to get more colourful. I grew to really love him more as the game went on, despite a dull first impression and expectation. Of all the sentient AI companions to talk to me, he might be my favourite, and surprisingly, never gets overbearing with his commentary, which is a really easy thing to happen for me. Petrov is pretty much your main antagonist of the game, and he's not around a ton to interact with, but he is a massive lunatic at times and can be pretty entertaining. Especially in the final encounter you have with him. You have Nora, a super sexual robot that you will use to upgrade your abilities and craft and all that stuff. And trust me, you might think you know what I mean when I say super sexual, but no, trust me, you don't understand. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Oh, how can I resist? Now let me show you what I can do. Professionally, I mean.
I've seen it. Literally. Crispy critters.
I am here to help you upgrade your red-hot pocket rockets. And believe me, handsome, you can upgrade whatever tickles your fancy. Love, handsome, you don't need him anymore now that you've got me. I'll service you however you want. Got a sword? A massive sword? Thrust it deep into my socket so I can make it sturdier and sharper.
Nora can...
And last, but definitely not least, Granny Xena. A mysterious, foul-mouthed old woman with a massive arsenal of weapons.
Coming.
You should be more careful. This place is a damn madhouse.
Yeah, I noticed. Thanks for...
Who introduces herself by saving you from being choked by a robot by ramming a pitchfork through its head. And she was an instant favourite for me. She is one badass old lady who had me choking in laughter. She was a highlight of my gaming life.
Take that. Eat shit and die. Shit.
Seriously, she is one of the greatest characters of all time as far as I'm concerned.
Come to Granny.
Where'd you get that thing?
No
Give it to
way.
me!
You hang on to that key. I got this.
And overall, not exactly a game made to be funny, but it does have some really great laugh-out-loud moments that I really do cherish here between these characters.
This is where the power comes from.
Are you sure?
Definitely.
How?
Because this place has my favorite thing in the whole fucking world. A relay.
Really? I thought you were more partial to canisters.
Oh, come on.
Graphics-wise, overall it looks nice. I have no grievances. But some things are pretty beautiful and impressive. Like how the grass will sway a little bit or the ripples in a fountain. There are some really cool and creative robot designs that made me excited to see them. The Beliash is one of my favourite robot designs I've ever seen. And I'm not usually the kind of person to spend a long time just looking at things because they look nice. Usually when games have an opening sequence with no significant gameplay, I rush through it. But here, I really spent quite a while just looking at things before the game really even started. I could have easily done the opening sequence 3 or 4 times faster if I wasn't so enamoured, so I have to give it points for that. The world is conceptually fascinating, one of the most I've ever experienced. And I have to give major props to whoever designed the locations and buildings in this game here, because things look and feel massive when they want to. There are some genuinely awe-inspiring sights. Most games don't even come close to giving the sense of scale and size. But here, it almost felt like being in a real giant building and having the same sense of being overwhelmed by how massive it is. And it does a fantastic job creating dingy, small, tight spaces too, that can rival the best horror games. And the beautiful looking graphics of this game even translate into old school animations, from game over screens to the upgrade menus to the TVs playing old timey Tom and Jerry style cartoons. The gameplay in lots of ways is your typical first person game where you have a mix between guns, melee weapons, and even energy weapons like a shotgun that uses energy from the glove that can recharge over time. You can equip multiple and then even cycle between 6 different weapons with left and right D-pad buttons without the wheel or menus, which I think is a really nice and convenient thing and doesn't happen nearly enough games. Usually you might have 4, usually 2, and if you want different ones you're opening the wheel. This does that fucking great. I love this. I hope way more games can take this feature. And for your melee attacks, you can do a typical normal hit, or you can hold down L2 for like a charging attack, which is stronger but takes more time. You can also craft and find canisters to attach to your weapons and add elemental damage like fire or freeze. They can even attach to your melee weapons. And having a fire axe is fucking badass in my books. On your other hand, your glove gives you a variety of abilities such as scanning by tapping and holding R1, which will give you enemy names, weaknesses, resistance and lootable materials, and it lets you search rooms to see what parts you haven't searched yet. As you play you unlock more like shock attacks, freezing, shields, all with their own skill trees to upgrade and enhance. The shock is permanently set to triangle, but you can also have 2 others that can be equipped at one time. And one cool thing here is that the glove and weapon are completely separate. You can activate a shock while swinging your axe, or prepare a charged move and use a shield to block and then attack. Too many games would require you to basically put one away to use the other, so huge props to that design choice. It really adds a lot of variety, and I hope way more games can do this too. And if you do anything you don't like or just want to change a pace, skill points can be completely reset and redistributed to completely change up your abilities and upgrades. Now, the most common enemies you will fight are robots, from the common mustache touting crash test dummy looking ones to flying machines, buzzsaw shooting mini bots. You have security cameras, which if caught more enemies will come, and even more if you fight back. And healing robots too, to keep you on your toes before they restore dead allies. There's also plant-based infected enemies sometimes too, all with different weaknesses and strengths. There's a ton of variety here to fight, and it always keeps things interesting, and enemies can be really smart too. You'll be running away from one and boom, a fucking rugby tackle from the side and a jump kick to the face. The game comes with a few boss fights too, and some of these can be fucking epic. The Hog 70, for example, was a blast. I died like 12 times against this, and I didn't even mind. It was always a heart-pounding fun time and had so much going on. Truly an amazing fight, even when I got thrashed. And considering how long the loading times are in this game, the fact that I never felt annoyed is an unbelievable accomplishment to me. The only boss I didn't really love was the Plyosh, who I won't show because it's a bit later of a boss, but he was just a pain in the ass. He would throw these constant quick time events at you where you had to kick him 3 separate times and then tap a button, and he would do this way too often, and it was a real sponge of a boss fight too. But it was so overbearing and aggressive that it was a pretty satisfying boss to kill. Once. Unfortunately, they repeated 4 or 5 times, which sucks really bad, because it was the only boss I really hated, and it had to be the only one they kept throwing at me. It really dragged the game down a bit when it kept happening. But I definitely liked the combat a lot, with so much variety, abilities to pick from, weapons to choose from. There's just so much going on here depending on your playstyle. The abilities you choose will impact a lot. For example, you can freeze enemies and stop them from moving for a while. Shields can be great if you're not great at dodging like I'm not. You can use polymer goo to make enemies more vulnerable to certain abilities. My loadout usually included an energy pistol, a shotgun, one that I would swap out a few times, and my trusty axe. Most weapons are what you would expect: a pistol, the assault rifle, the shotgun, but there are some more extreme ones like the railgun, and of course, the fat boy. While the abilities I used were usually my shield and the freezing ability, because stopping enemies in place was always incredibly satisfying, especially when you get them in the air or in a funny pose. And while not a horribly difficult game, at least on normal, which I played on, there were some parts that might give you a lot of trouble, and a few parts that will keep you heavily on your toes. The kind of battles that you will finish and realise you haven't been breathing for quite a while. Loading times unfortunately can be really bad, and while they only usually happen if you die, it can get to be a bit much if you die a few times against an enemy. So it's another game that I probably won't touch on harder difficulties until I get a PS5, where I imagine the loading times will be much better. But there is a silver lining. You get tips in the loading screen, which, although funny enough, my first tip was about outgrowing the tips. But more importantly, you get cute little animations showing your death. And it seems like not only every enemy has a unique clip, but they also have unique animations here for different enemy moves. So dying can be worth it just to see this play out. When you're not busy shooting robots, the biggest part of this game is exploring. First thing, this game is not as open of a world that people might be thinking. At least for me. I was really expecting a much more open experience, but that's not what this is, at least at first. This game doesn't open its world until like 8 hours in, and that's not a complaint. I just thought it was worth mentioning. But when it does, the world is beautiful and fascinating looking, especially some of the giant futuristic structures you can find sometimes. These can look genuinely amazing. It has a really kind of campsite looking mix of nature and man-made feel going on. And they have this really cool, slightly washed out looking effect on things, like they were painted and need a touch up, but they just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's a vibe I really like. But there really isn't much going on in the world or much of a reason to explore. You'll find some houses with a few materials, maybe a blueprint, and there's some optional lore or text conversations that can give you a bit more detail into the world and its inhabitants, and some small underground complexes that you can explore. It can be a shame not to have a little bit more, but it's not too bad. This isn't one of those games where you're going to spend way too long in the open world doing nothing. There's usually a short time between one mission and the next, so it won't really be a problem. The longest I think I took was maybe a few minutes in between one mission and another, so I think it's okay. My two biggest faults with the open world are, one, I wish I had some open world music or a radio or something like in Fallout. Just something to jazz it up a little. If there's one thing I think it desperately needs to take from other games, it's that. But then again, the lack of it can really add to the off-putting, uncomfortable vibe of the world, and sometimes the sound of nature can be more than enough. And two, while the map looks really cool and has a cool grid-like look to it, like those pin things you push your face into, it does a terrible job showing where you are, especially the way you're facing. It's hard to know where to go without opening the map multiple times, and it seems half the time the arrow doesn't show up to show you which way you're looking. So it could really do with a compass or a mini-map, or even just a way to set waypoints, like any other open world game in the last 20 years. It's honestly kind of crazy they didn't think of this. With all the little things they do with this game that most games wouldn't think of, I'm kind of shocked they left something so basic out. You can also drive, which I only discovered like 3/4 of the way into the game, so that helps get around faster and run things over too, which is a pretty satisfying feeling.
Let's know how to fight.
Overall, not much here exactly, but it works for the size and it can be an incredible, awe-inspiring, beautiful place to look at.
Sechenov's the only family I've got, okay?
I understand, Comrade Major, but what do you need to get to the bottom of it?
Most of the game will take place in these underground complexes. Whether the main ones, which can be massive, and I'm talking like hours of story-long journeys into these places, and some completely optional smaller ones too for extras. And some of these come with really cool, unique puzzles and platforming elements that you won't find anywhere else in the game. Usually with the reward being some blueprints or weapons or crafting materials. They're pretty much like the dungeons of the game, from looting and searching, which can be really satisfying. Your glove's magnetic feature allows you to quickly and really efficiently search compartments without having to manually pull everything open. It's like barreling through a room with a high-powered vacuum. Every once in a while you'll be locked off by these puzzles with a mix between a time-based rhythm game style puzzle where you have to press the locks at the right time. A light matching puzzle which I had real trouble with at first, but still a lot of fun when you figure it out.
Come on.
Your combination locks where you have to find the code somewhere else and click the right buttons in the right order. And so much more. There's a great variety here. There's even some unique one-off puzzles that can be incredibly fun, like guiding a frozen ball to the right place to cool down a set of boilers, or using shock powers to raise and activate barriers and platforms.
Type and thermal machines. 3. Regular and cylindrical surface grinding, as well as spark erosion treatment.
Throughout you'll find safe rooms too, which allow you to have a breather, save, and find a chest with a few little bits to help you along like ammo or health. And to help with the relaxing, a little TV playing some animated show about a wolf trying to either sleep with or kill this mouse. It's hard to tell sometimes. These rooms are also where you will find Nora, who can be used as a place to upgrade and craft new weapons, items, ammo, all that good stuff. But only after you find recipes or blueprints throughout the game to unlock better stuff. One of the most unique things about this game is you can communicate with recently dead bodies due to the Neuralink thing they had in their head, which basically allow lingering memories and consciousness to have some presence after they die. Some are just for optional conversations, some are necessary to help you get further along.
Just like everything here. They won't go. Nope, won't go without the schematic. The dead have a residual neuropolymer memory and are capable of communicating for some time after death.
You will also find these audio logs, which are short little audio clips that give you little insights into people's lives or deaths.
This is an emergency log entry.
And while it's frustrating that these can be interrupted if you press something wrong, and you can't listen to them again without being stuck in a menu, at least as far as I can tell, it is pretty cool that you can not only listen to them again, but they have the full transcript too. I don't see that much, if ever. And you also have a little circle that fills in while it plays too, showing you how close it is to ending, which I really love. It can be really frustrating in games when you have these optional things and you don't know how long they're going to go on for, so you don't know if you can continue without interrupting it. Which is another thing this game does really well. Conversations rarely interrupt or cut each other off. Most games have awful issues with this. Here it was pretty much perfect. If it stops it will resume, and it doesn't butt into other conversations. I never felt like something got cut off too soon. It's a really rare treat. Except in the last big area, but that was the only time it seemed to happen. This game can even manage to be really scary at times. Like when you don't think you're able to be seen and an enemy starts running at you, it's terrifying. I got jump scared twice in this game, in the daytime, in real life and in game, and I yelled out louder than any time I can remember in years. Dedicated horror games couldn't touch that moment, and it was just regular gameplay too, not like a cheap jump scare. I'm honestly relieved that it never happened during a tense, dark moment, because I think there is a very real possibility that it could have killed me. And more than the full-on scariness, it absolutely nails discomfort and uncanny unease. Second to none as far as I've experienced with this game. When this game wanted me to feel scared, nervous, uneasy, anything like that, I felt it hard. Like, I shit you not, one robot made me feel so weirdly ill. Like, just a little bit queasy and teary-eyed, and I can't even begin to explain it. The second I saw it, it just hit me hard. Even just normal robots themselves can be kind of terrifying sometimes, but at the same time hilarious to watch. It's just a weird feeling, like you know you're absolutely fucked if they catch you, but they look so cute when they run. It's just a hard one to rationalize to myself, and I think that's part of why it gets me so hard. There's also a few drug trip-like sequences, and I think it's the first time I've liked these since like Far Cry 3. These trippy moments are usually just boring, walking forward, lights changing colour, things changing size, things disappear, you know, all that crap, and it gets old fast. This one is interactive, creative, colourful, has unique weird objects, and you actually can fail a little bit instead of just walking forward in a glorified cutscene. If I'm going to get into a bit of the negatives about this game, some of my biggest complaints overall, the already mentioned loading times, no way to set waypoints, see directions you're going, owing the arrow not showing up, that is really frustrating. The overuse of the boss fight near the end that I really hated, unskippable cutscenes which I think are inexcusable in 2023, and can make the idea of repeat playthroughs really unappealing. Also, while you have a storage system, there's no way to see what the items' names are unless you check it in your own menu. So unless you have it memorized when you're in that storage, the only way you can do it is to check it out and hope for the best, which is even more annoying when you want to disassemble things for parts and materials. It really slows things down. Also, there wasn't one weird boss fight that locked me in. Like it would load back into the boss fight instead of setting me back to a place to upgrade or let me get new items or anything like that, which could really hurt if you hadn't saved recently and you were stuck. I was lucky to have enough ammo and stuff to fight it, but I could easily imagine somebody getting really sent back here. Also, quite a few subtitles they get wrong, like that fuck instead of shit, diagram instead of schematic. It's weird, I usually don't notice, but this game had way too many. And the subtitles themselves are ridiculously small. Like, look at this. There's no way to make these bigger. I also had 3 game lockups or crashes. One when a cutscene was meant to start. One after I tried to open the equipment menu, and one hard crash that sent me back a good 30 to 40 minutes. But thankfully the autosave is usually on the ball, so it wasn't too bad. So while frustrating, it's hard to be too upset because crashes are incredibly rare for me with games in general, and they were few and far between, but it is still 3 crashes more than most games I play. But other than those, I didn't have much of anything negative to say about it. And the last thing I want to talk about, one of my favourite parts for almost any review, the music. The music in this game is one of the most perfectly placed ever. It just has a phenomenal soundtrack and one of the best ever. If I'll be honest, I don't know if any of these are original pieces, and if they are, how many. And I do apologise in advance for my uncultured ass not knowing the names of them. But it doesn't matter if it's high pulse-pounding action, beautiful awe-inspiring pieces, or just pure uncanny unease. It nails it all. From Nocturne in C# minor playing in one spot that was just perfectly placed and made me just sit for a couple of minutes to read and enjoy.
Young man, I was just the village herbalist. Look, that was the year you gave me your gold basket. Yep, we're scientists now, so it is a memorial.
The menu music can be really cool. It's like a weird mix of comforting and tense. One terrifying, chilling lullaby. And the Nora music when upgrading is catchy, top-notch background music.
Access granted.
Overall, not sure again how much is original for the game, but its placement is just flawless sometimes. And it does a great job to show beautiful, haunting, and tense music to make you feel nervous as hell. And that applies to the sound design as a whole. Just absolutely amazing job keeping you on edge when it wants it to be. That it can be done better than most horror games. And it can be a very high energy blast too. I started off with the mindset of nothing amazing but a few good tracks, but that changed soon enough. This soundtrack is absolutely top notch stuff, with way too many to mention each one individually. Atomic Heart is easily one of the most addicting games I've ever played. I had to pull myself away from this in the late hours, and it's rare for me to get that sucked into one game, especially in one sitting. And I never felt bored, not even in the slightest, which I never expected from this kind of game. I had a great few days just playing this late into night until my eyes were dropping. And it's not just the big things, it's all the many little things that you would never condemn for not being in a game, but are massively appreciated when they are. The final score for Atomic Heart is a very solid 9 out of 10. There were many times where I thought I could reach a high 9 and straggle the line of a 10, and a few bad moments I considered an 8, but I can't deny how this game consumed me, how it made me feel so many things so strongly. I really think if I had a better story and more time with these great characters, a few problems ironed out and a better ending, this could easily be a 10. It was a huge surprise to me, and I usually don't get this engrossed by these games, but this one just hit right, and it has been one of my favourite gaming experiences in many years. All I can really say is, if this somehow doesn't make my top 5 games of this year, 2023 will have to be one of the best years for gaming that I've ever seen. And I'm hoping with a few small updates, they can make this already amazing game even better. I don't even think that much is needed. I'm extremely excited to see what's next from Mundfish, hopefully without 5 delays next time, but if this is the quality I can expect, it will be worth the wait.
There is nothing I can do if you leave me here to cry.
Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, let me know what you thought of Atomic Heart. What's your rating? Have you picked it up yet? Please consider liking and subscribing, all that good stuff. It apparently helps. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Spoiler warning that I mentioned earlier, by the way. Please leave now if you don't want me to spoil the end of this game. The other spoiler will be for Forspoken. Here's your 5-second warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So in the end of this game, your glove basically betrays you, and it was behind everything all along, or at least a lot of it. In Forspoken, your cuff betrays you, and was behind everything bad all along. How the fuck? We're just 2 months into 2023, and we have already had 2 games where sentient armware betrays you. Like, is Final Fantasy 16 gonna have an elbow pad be the twist villain?